Well, hello and welcome back. My name's Kieran Siemens. This is my inky world, and today's question really is kind of a lesson. Though I'll be doing an illustration. It's kind of a question about how to put two characters together, how to work out that concept of what makes it work. So I'm going to go through a few things like that. I will be doing an illustration for the Worilips book, and at the same time I'll talk you through some things that are going through my head. Maybe it will enlighten the subject for you. Okay, so we're going to be doing an illustration, we're going to be doing some talking and analysing of working with two characters together. Alright, here we are. That's today's video. Well, hello, welcome back. I'm going to start off today's drawing, talking through about what the sketch for today's illustration is. Oh my god, I just spilled my ink. Dear, dear, dear. Is this one. Can you see that? This one here. Now, it's where Worilips meets the spider. Now that spider was incorrect, and I did a doodle on the side of what kind of character it could have been. But that was something that I was putting down some pointers for myself. And so today's kind of illustration basically is about working out a concept. Now, as you might already know, Worilips has kind of got like a square head, and working from my thought, where is it, where can I catch the sun there? I like the idea of the square head so that I can squash it and bend it, and with a rounded head I could never feel like I could get that expression. So the idea really was that by giving Worilips, you see, once I start to plan it out, I seem to do things incorrect. And once I do it from feeling, I kind of find that it works. And that's just a natural problem. Now I'm going to bring his body down, and I'm going to bring his arm. And again with the fingers, by the way that the fingers kind of bend up in that kind of shock helps. Now, the reason he had a square head was originally when I was going through the concept of Worilips, I felt that I wanted him to have a kind of sad-ish character, and I did feel that every time I drew him with a round head, I kind of got this feeling that he didn't look sad. I don't quite understand why, but it just didn't work out, and that's kind of enough just to. Now, again with the expression, sometimes I feel like I don't really want to do too much with the expression. I want to kind of find it, because I kind of feel like sometimes when you're drawing the emotion of a character, it kind of comes through you somehow. So the idea was just to mock it up a little bit so that I could kind of get this eye-to-eye feeling. Now, the idea in the story is that Worilips is constantly seeing spiders and constantly seeing bugs, and it's something that comes through from his kind of medical condition, and he's constantly kind of seeing bugs and spiders and stuff like that. And that was a big kind of feeling of excitement for me, because it was like, you know, you probably maybe even. And I wanted this idea that the the spiders had some kind of expression, some kind of personality. So we'll get onto the ink. So the way I'm working out this, it's a reaction. It's kind of, I wanted this disbelief. Is this real? Is this, what is happening? Did you just talk? Did that spider talk? This type of interaction. So it's not like a scream horror, it's a bug. So that's the feelings that I'm thinking about with this illustration. I'm trying to get an expression of almost disbelief, not horror. Now, also with this, I'm trying to get this feeling of the spider. I wanted the spider to have an arrogance, a confidence. And I'm going to start putting in some ink now. And the only way that I could feel that to really kind of come through was to kind of give him these big eyes that is kind of like, and so this confidence from the spider is kind of like, well, it's not like, oh my God, I've been spotted, I'm going to get killed. It's more of this type of feeling that I wanted to say, yeah, man, you're in my house now. That type of thing, you know? So this spider had to, now I've got to control my urges to do too much of a splatter because Norman really wasn't in that way of thinking. So I'm trying to get this reaction between them of he's in the spider's house, in the spider's domain, and he's quite kind of pleased about it, confident about it. And at the same time, I wanted Norman to feel this disbelief of a talking creature. So I do find that when you've got an important meeting of minds, as it were, in an illustration or in working out a concept, I think quite a lot of it is to think it through, almost like you would if you were kind of like a director or something. You really need, like, I want him to smile. I really want him to have this kind of, and I think you need to work it out as you would if you were a director. In an odd way, by being the illustrator of the book, you're kind of a director, you know. You are kind of in that situation where you are deciding. Now, I can't really draw Norman's expression until I see what I've created with this spider. And I feel like I need to draw the spider first to help me to decide how he would react. How would he react with this type of creature? And also, what is he reacting to? In the same way that if you were doing a handsome prince and a princess, I kind of, whoever is the one that's falling in love is the one that you draw second. So you've kind of created the person that you are falling in love with. So you have a sense of, this is the person that he's fallen in love with. How would he react? So you're not just kind of going blind into this. I love doing these different type of eyes. It kind of gives this nice kind of craziness feeling. this is the basics of the spider. Now once I put in the colors and the grey tones, as it were, you will start to see more of the greyness around his eyes and the hairs on the body, and that will all kind of come in when I start to put some tones onto it. I shouldn't really say colour, I should really say tone. And this is just kind of giving this feeling that he's a hairy spider. And I'm giving him these kind of jointed legs, almost like you would with a crab almost, but I kind of feel like it would give this spider more kind of spookiness, kind of more reason to be afraid of him, as it has got these long kind of crab-like dangerous kind of legs, you know. And I was really pleased with that. The idea that this character has got this this kind of confidence, and I feel like this is really kind of working out quite nicely here. So I hope my cameras stay alive for this. So this will be for the novel of Worilips, which I'm just putting together the illustrations for it as we speak, and I'm very pleased with it. It's sometimes quite difficult when you're actually the person that's doing the writing and doing the illustration. There's quite a lot there to kind of get right. It can be quite a challenge sometimes. And at the moment I'm kind of working on a few projects at the same time, which, you know, is absolute madness, to be honest, but it's the only way to kind of get a few projects moving. Now there's quite a nice kind of feeling now with this spider, and that character is really coming across. He kind of got that dodgy eye, and he's kind of saying, well, this is my house, you're in my house now. That's him just kind of hanging there. Now I will shade in some of the under legs to kind of help with the concept, help to kind of clarify where the legs are, because there's so many of them. Now it's very important as you're doing a couple of characters together is to keep concentrating on what is happening with the characters as you're drawing them, as you're putting together the expressions and whatnot, and seeing if your intended expression and the final expression have actually worked. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes you kind of wanted to say this and wanted to do that, and simply it doesn't. It kind of gives him a nice hairy feeling to it. Now this is the part now where I need to start to think about how would Norman react with this type of spider if it just kind of dropped from the sky and it was kind of like said, hey buddy, you're trespassing, or something like that, you know. And my expression with that original drawing, the original kind of sketch, as I kind of plotted out some things, gave him quite a big eye, and I'm not really that keen on giving Norman a big eye, because in a lot of ways it kind of, I like him having these small expressive eyes, and that's the kind of rings of stress coming around from his eyes. And Norman has always been a character that's really kind of grabbed my heart, to be honest. His kindness and his naivety really kind of make this character something that I feel like I would love to kind of draw for the rest of my life. You know, it's one of those type of and there's only really been a couple of the characters in my life where I really could see myself drawing forever. The panda being one, and Norman definitely being one of them. Now I kind of feel like his mouth needs to be kind of dropping with shock in this. The relationship here is, I'm the tough guy, you just walked into me, you just met me in some kind of dark alleyway. And I really want the idea of this to kind of be something where it's that's quite nice. Now you can see with this illustration, I started off, I didn't really want it to be too kind of inky, so I've had to kind of control my my urges. Sometimes I do kind of get a bit wilder on the edges, but he was definitely a much kind of cleaner illustrative style. And he was actually a concept of trying to, when I first thought of Worilips, I was actually thinking about the character that I had kind of written kind of reminded me of some old comedian. And I can't really remember his name, but he was quite a square-headed character. And he was bald, but he had long hair. Do you know that? And that was my original idea for kind of somebody kind of that looked a little bit like that. So that was the original kind of concept with Norman, about trying to get somebody who was kind of like a little bit kind of bald, but a little bit kind of like scraggly hair, and that's kind of where his character came from. And that kind of started to get into when I started to write the stories. I started to get to a point where Norman had really got this very shy boy feeling about him, and that I loved. I really loved this man who didn't really know too much about the world. And in a way, it was really nice to see how he dealt with things, how he dealt with love, how he dealt with friendship, how he dealt with, and all these possibilities came forward, and it just worked. I don't know. I mean, sometimes things don't, but Worilips worked for me. It was a beautiful marriage in my mind of this character and the way that he interacted. And the reason I've chosen Norman today for this demonstration is because of the way his character is. He's very much this kind of naive character that's stepping into a world that everybody else kind of feels like they're bigger and better and stronger than he is. As in this scene here with the spider. The spider is this kind of confident, like, hey man, you're in my house now. What are you going to do about it? Whereas actually it is Norman's house. So Norman's kind of got to this part of kind of, okay, how am I going to deal with this? How do I deal with it? And the reason that we only see Norman's fingers is that the jumper is too long. It's a very long sleeved jumper and his fingers kind of dangle out of the bottom. Did I just get a splash of ink on my face? No. So that was and I feel that's quite a nice expression. I feel it quite well follows what I've done on the sketch. And sometimes the sketches are, you know, we've had a lot of talks about this. About having a sketchbook. If you don't have a sketchbook, if you don't have a scribbly notepad in your bag, why not? You know, you will be sitting waiting in a dentist's place, and you'll just have this amazing idea, and you'll write it down, and it will come up later on, and you'll think, my God, I'm so happy that I had. So many times I've been sitting on a bus or sitting in a train, taxi, aeroplane, whatever, and had an idea, you know. And these ideas are sometimes your brain thinking about something for a very, very long time, and it just announces it at that moment. And that's the time to write these things down. So in my earlier scribble in my pad, I was trying to work out how he meets these things. How does this happen? Where does this happen? And this is the stress behind him. This is where this kind of concept comes in here. And that's pleasing. I'm happy with that. I'm just going to fill in that area there with the mouth. So, just reviewing some of the points. Think about your interaction between your two characters. Work on the character who is the dominant force in the scene. Work, in this case, I've worked on the spider. I've tried to finish that illustration of him, and then it gives me so much more power, if you want, more confidence than by going through and doing his reaction to this character. Otherwise, you're kind of working a little bit backwards. If you're kind of working on the hero guy and then you're going to draw the villain, then you might actually lose something in the reaction, in the expression of him. Now, I'm not sure if this is dried enough, but I'm going to attempt to put in some light shadows. And the way I like to do this, as I've probably explained on other Worilips drawings, is that I like to keep the shading loose. I don't like it to get too controlled. I find the more controlled that it gets, the more it doesn't really look right. So I just kind of blotch it on. I kind of put it on in a very kind of loose, very loose and very kind of washy. And I do find that does kind of help. I don't know why, but it seems to fit better with the style. And the more kind of loose I feel that I do this, the more the characters come alive in a very odd way of explaining it. You can see that I've got 2 or 3 different types of ink there, and one has got what I would call a texture in it, and one has got just a light wash, and then the other is kind of like a mid between. So you can see how there I'm kind of and for all you technical crazy people, yes, I'm using one brush. But don't you wash your brush? Nope. That kind of is part of this style, you know. If I was doing it on a different style, yes, probably I would wash them or have 2 or 3, 4, 5 brushes. But in this style, I'm actually adding textures. Here we are. And by adding the textures adds a lot to my... Now once you've got the line work down there, it doesn't really matter in what there's no kind of way that you need to add color. You can do it in any kind of way that you feel works for you. You can do it in a very loose style, as I do here. And I feel, for me, this really was a lovely, it was a lovely project, because I kind of felt I learned so much from it. I learned so much from the whole concept of the character and the whole kind of building up of expressions, the expressions on this. As you if you see the, you know, the original Worilips kind of daily thoughts book, you will see that the expressions are very, very, very important. Very important. And I think the expressions in that book were perfect. Even if I say so myself, I feel like everything worked in that book. That is the book that I'm talking about, the Worilips. There is 3 of them, and you can see there's so many different, like even something like that with the crocodile sitting on his bed. You can see the delight in the crocodile, like it's like a puppy dog or something like that, and then the absolute shock of Norman waking up. And that was him when he goes to meet death. And you see this huge big smile on Norman's head. Yeah, so, you know, go and treat yourself to a book. Go and treat yourself to a Worilips book. Go on. Let's just get a little bit of that. A bit of the darker feeling to it. And that's kind of coming across really, really quite nice. I'm really pleased with the way that it's working in this. And of course then we get into the darker parts here with the legs. Which is quite nice. And then we go for the lighters for the legs in the back. And again, keeping it nice and loose. Keeping that a kind of shadowing effect. And it's basically there. I mean, there's some kind of things that maybe I would like to. I'm just trying to kind of frame it out a little bit there. And it's just kind of little spray bottles that I kind of possess. And it just kind of builds up a little bit of an atmosphere in there with, they're not very accurate spray bottles, but it builds up a texture. Builds up an atmosphere. In fact, that bottle's quite that bottle's quite funny because it's an old kind of spray perfume type thing in your room, and every time I spray my ink, it still gives this kind of blast of scented, like fragrance to it. So that is the basic image of Worilips for today, and it's also something that is a very nice kind of demonstration of working with two characters and some of the concepts of it. Obviously it's only a spider, so there's not much to kind of dive into there, but I feel like it works, and I feel like it's a lovely illustration for the book. So I hope there has been some elements of help in there and some elements of learning. I hope there is some parts to it that will excite you. I hope there's something in there that you can fire back some questions if you've got any questions. I will try and do a few more of these type of teaching of elements of it. I know that someone had asked me about doing how do you work with two characters together, and I feel like the main element there is working on the dominant character, working on who is the aggressor, who is the important one in the scene, and revolving the other characters around you. I will do some more book Worilips drawings where he's in different situations and different scenes, and hopefully that will come in to give us some ideas. Okay, I hope that helps, and I will see you again very, very, very soon. This will be in a purple box. On the, if you see the images dropping down, you'll see it's got a purple edge to it, as it's a little bit of a kind of a teaching element to it. And in the meantime, before you all escape, go and treat yourself to a nice notebook, or a Worilips book, or a sketchbook, or some kind of book. I've got hundreds of books there. Go and treat yourself to something. And thank you for being here, and I will see you again very, very, very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.